We are new to we are new to Missoula. We've been here 3 months, so we felt it was probably best if I introduce him. So without further ado, here's my husband, Brian.
Everybody, I'm Brian, alcoholic. Oh, wow. I have no idea what I'm about to say today. You're probably in for a good experience, hopefully. It's been by the grace of God, Alcoholics Anonymous, and both sides of sponsorship. I haven't found it necessary to take a drink since December 12th of 1999. I have no idea how the heck that happened. I know that when I decided to enter into Alcoholics Anonymous, that this is not what I wanted to do. Trust me, this was not on my to-do list. For those of you that are just entering into Alcoholics Anonymous, welcome. Welcome to Al-Anon. I'm sure you guys love hearing our stories. And if this wasn't on your to-do list, I say that this is probably the best house on the block. It's the last house on the block if you are struggling with thinking about drinking in Alcoholics Anonymous. Because I tell you what my sponsor told me. He says, if you're thinking about drinking and sitting in AA, it beats sitting in a bar thinking about getting sober. And because sometimes we never make it here. I've seen too many people come in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous over the 25 years I've been in AA, and I didn't think at first that it was really sad. I just thought it was just what they do. Until you get some years of sobriety under your belt, and then you start looking back at what God and what sponsorship and what Alcoholics Anonymous and the people that are in the meetings have done for you. And it's sad to see people just go out again. They just cash it all in. You know, which brings me to a story. My brother, he's the one who brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous in 1999. I was struggling. I was actually walking to the bar, and this was Lincoln, Nebraska, because that's where I got sober, was in Nebraska. But my journey started in Montana when I was a child. But I was coming into Alcoholics Anonymous, and my brother had 2 years of sobriety. And what sucks is that he stuck around a long time in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he got sober and he got well, and he was sponsoring a lot of people, and he was well liked in the community, and he was giving back and stuff like that. And at 20 years sobriety, he calls me up. He says, "I'm not sure I'm an alcoholic," and he cashed it in. Right? He lives in Butte now. He moved up here a couple of months before I did. And he hasn't taken a drink for 2 years, but he doesn't really do AA. And I'm happy for that. As long as he's not, uh, you know, taking a drink or taking a drug. I know today that the streets are much safer, that I'm not drinking, because I love to drink and drive, especially 18-wheelers. Yeah, that was one of the things I did a lot in blackouts. And I'm surprised that I haven't killed anyone or got my CDL revoked as a result of that. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm glad you guys are all here. So I wasn't quite sure what I was going to talk about today, and my sponsor and my wife are both like, "How about you just tell your story?" Because that's probably what they want to hear. Good point. Sometimes when I start thinking about someone else, thanks Stanley for asking me to speak. because it's not something I like to do. This is the one thing in Alcoholics Anonymous that I really don't like to do, unless I'm sitting in a meeting. I'm more of the in meeting kind of share on the topic kind of guy, and not behind this thing. Um, there's so many things that I like to talk about, but there's so many things that I'm afraid to talk about in Alcoholics Anonymous. Um, I didn't really grow up with a great history of, you have great parents. They did a great job with you. Surprised you're not in prison. Surprised you didn't kill anybody while you were drinking. Things like that, but there's a part in the big book that talks about frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The message that can hold an interest in alcoholic must have depth and weight. And that comes from people in AA. And it comes from a higher power, a relationship with the power. And the history before I took a drink were things like abuse, abandonment, rejection. I've been shot at by my own stepfather. And there's a lot of things that I don't like to talk about in Alcoholics Anonymous because of, granted, a lot of us can identify with that stuff. If I was on a one-on-one sponsorship thing and somebody come up to me after a meeting, after disclosing that stuff, good. I'm happy to share that stuff because it says that our past can sometimes shine light on people's identity, like to be able to recognize each other's past and to be helpful. But that's the stuff that I don't like talking about, the damage that created before I took the drink and why I took the drink and why I stayed drinking. Because I just wanted to escape that feeling, right? Of destruction, the chaos, the mental masturbation of I hate myself, I hate you, and I don't want to be a part of your life, and I can't stand listening to you. And I've been in a few foster homes, and I spent a lot of time drinking on that. Lots and lots of time drinking on that because I was the only one out of 3 brothers that went to a foster home. Like, why? And I blame my family for that stuff. But I look back on that, and that's not the truth. Annie said something very important. The longer I'm sober, the more I look back on my past, and I can see that my perception of it has changed. There's a reason why there's a God, and it's not me. Of course, I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and my first thing I got back was my opinion. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you that I want to share my story. I don't want to do the 4-step. I'm not going to make amends. Stuff like that. That's the stuff that I said to my sponsor at the time. I didn't want a sponsor. Of course, I got the worst sponsor I could ever get. But I tell you what, God has a hand in all of that stuff. He gives me the people that I need in my life today for a reason. Whether that's to listen, whether that's to speak, whether that's to show up, suit up, and stuff like that. And before I forget, I just want to thank my wife for introducing me. I'm sorry if that offends anybody here, but I don't know enough people in Alcoholics Anonymous here in Missoula yet to say something funny or say something bad about me. So hopefully after today, you will have something to say. And I'm offended that Joe never showed up today. Hopefully he's on Zoom. So if Joe, you're listening, yeah, we're talking one of these days soon. But dark was my favorite color. But it didn't matter how much darkness that my life was, where I was at when I entered into Alcoholics Anonymous, because it took the smallest bit of light to shine in on that darkness. And if there wasn't that in AA, I don't think that I would have stuck around. Because I was beat up by alcohol, I was beat up by people, I was beat up by the system, I was beat up by all kinds of things. And I tell you what, man, when I picked up a drink at the age of 13, yeah, I waited as long as possible. Um, at the age of 13, I don't know what I experienced, but it was good. It was good. Um, I was living in a foster home. I was actually living in Roundup, Montana, on a ranch. Um, what's funny is their names were Duke and Donna, and he was actually he participated in. Remember the Marlboro Man? Yeah, he actually auditioned for that position once, and I could see that. But I don't know what happened to them today because I owe them still amends, and I haven't been able to find them. I know that she lives in Winifred. I think that's the name of it, Winifred, Montana. And I haven't been able to find him yet. I don't even know if he's still alive. I've looked for their daughter, Christy, and I can't seem to locate her. I've reached out to people with the same last name, and I haven't gotten any reply back yet. So I'm trying to do my part is to clean up that part of my life. So 25 years and I'm still not done making amends. Um, so the thing is, when I look back on living in a foster home, they were there to do a job. That was to make sure that I was safe, right? And I started huffing. You guys know what that is? Man, I tell you what, I've seen some wild stuff. I seen the Heckle and Jekyll birds. Yeah. I seen the Anheuser-Busch Bulls in the sky once. I thought that was quite interesting. And my foster father at the time, he was walking by me once, and I said, "Look, do you guys see that? The Anheuser-Busch Bowls in the sky?" And he's like, "Are you on something?" And I said, "Maybe." um, but it's just funny stories today to me when I look back at that stuff. And but I destroyed some of their stuff, their property, and I feel it's right for me to clean it up. But if I don't find them, then I will give back somewhere. Um, I wanted to read something. If I can find it, if I can read it with my glasses here. So the older I get, my eyes are getting worse. Um, and how it works on page 58, our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. Um, General, meaning if I'm just going to touch base on stuff, I'm not going to go into detail. So if I told you that I drank my own vomit at a prom party once, is that too much detail for you guys? Because I'm sure you guys probably maybe I'm the only alcoholic that's drank their own vomit out of being afraid that they might see that I'm getting sick because I'm drunk or shit. I started off with Black Velvet. And then there were some Bartles and James in someone's car, and I said, "Are you gonna drink that?" And they're like, "No, they can't stand it." And I'm like, "Sweet, I'll drink it." So I did. And then I went to the prom party. Um, and then they had a pony keg there, and I was laying on the bed, and I'm just got the tap in my mouth, and I'm just going to town on that sucker. And I lay there for 5 minutes, and the room was packed with all my friends, all dressed up. Because I was the alcoholic, didn't go to prom. I was just like too good for that. But I go into the parties that they throw. So I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and my mouth's starting to water. Um, and it's like I can just remember it like it was yesterday. And the funny thing is that I remember all that stuff, but I don't remember a lot of the good stuff. But I'm starting to get sick, and I cut my hands like that, and I puke in my hands, and and I just drink it because my mind is telling me these people are watching. I can't let them know that I'm getting sick. I end up in the bathroom, passed out, wake up the next morning, like, where am I at? And that's a lot of my drinking. So I'm sorry if a general way that was too much for you. But that's where my drinking led me, was that position, that spot, that space, that mental stuff. When I was drinking and driving semi, I'll tell a story. I started in Florida. I was going up to Maryland to pick up some fish from a market there. And I remember stopping along the way at a bar to take some more drinks. Windsor and Coke was my drink at the time. And after that, I got into a fight, or my friend got into a fight. I don't quite remember. And then we ended up in Delaware because we were going to go up there and visit some prostitutes. Yeah. Um, but the thing is that I was in a blackout that whole time, and I only remember parts of it. And I was the one driving, and he was in the bunk. Um, and the next morning, we woke up and we were on the side of the road or at a rest area. And I don't remember which direction we were headed. I don't remember what state we were in. And that is the type of drinking that I continually do all the time. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Right? Um, Funny story. My wife heard that story, but I left out the hookers and the prostitute part until I spoke at a meeting one time. She was there. It was her first, we were dating for a couple of weeks. And I didn't, I didn't want to tell her that part, afraid that she might just vanish. Um, so I, I disclose that now. So, cause she's not afraid, and I'm glad she stuck with me. So, um, I, I also wanted to read from that same place. Let's see what happened and what it was like now. If you decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. I drank from the age of 13 until I was 27. In there, I went to 2 treatment centers. I went to one in Billings, 30-day lockdown treatment center when I was the age of 14. I went to Wilderness Treatment Center in Kalispell or Marion, Montana, when I was fresh out of high school. They put me on a bus, a Greyhound bus, and shipped me all the way from there to Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Has anybody ever been to Scottsbluff, Nebraska? Oh, hey, there's not a whole lot there. So yeah. So when I rolled into treatment in Kalispell, they had said to me, you can run if you want, but the bear will get you or the bears will get you. Either one. So, so I stayed for the 2 months that I was there, and it was the best thing I ever did because they had planted a seed of AA. They planted a seed of recovery. They planted a seed of this is what we do to stay sober, right? And I got to be in the mountains. One of my favorite places to be today. It always has been. But so when I showed up in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, I got off the bus, and a guy by the name of Van, who was driving a van, who was wearing van shoes, smoking a big fat cigar, says, let's go. Going to the halfway house in Scottsbluff. And I looked at this guy and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Right? What is going on with this? I'm in a whole different new world. I didn't know anybody. And I got a stranger with 3 different vans in his story. And I'm going to a halfway house to live with a bunch of strangers. Not what I wanted to do, but it's right where I needed to be. Because that's where AA became a part of my life. I didn't want to be there because I wanted to be back in Montana because that's where I'm originally from. I was born in Texas, but I was raised in Montana, so I consider Montana my home. Um, the So when I was staying at the halfway house, I relapsed. I think 3 months, 4 months in, and I ended up packing all my stuff and moving to Lincoln, Nebraska when I was white knuckling it for 5 years. 5 years until 1999, and my drinking got pretty bad. So I don't know how I got to AA. I really don't. Um, Other than my brother stepping into my life and God saying, "Here, let's go." Right? So I did. I didn't have anywhere else to go. Hell, I was walking to the bar. I was losing my house. My car didn't work. I was like, "What? Guess I got nothing else better to do." So I went to an AA Christmas party, December 11th of 1999. There was a Christmas party. I go to the Christmas party, and that's one place you don't want to be when you're newly sober because there is a lot of happy people. Trust me. And they're there to hear the speaker. And then there's a dance to follow and all that good stuff and happy stuff. And so I told myself that I was going to go because I wanted to be close around my brother because he was sober and he was someone secure and safe. So I went to the party, and after the speaker, I decided, I was like, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna go home and change my clothes so I can get comfy for the dance, because I'm, G." Uh, and I ended up going to the bar. I lined up 5 shots and a beer chaser, and I drank all that, and I went home and I changed. I didn't make it home first. I went to the bar first. Then I went home, changed, and then I went back to the Christmas party. Yeah. I walk in, they're clearing the tables for the dance. And my brother looks at me, he's like, "I know exactly where you went, and you don't even need to tell me. Welcome back. I'm glad you're here." No matter how many times we go back out or make it back in, AA always seems to say, "Welcome back. You're always welcome here, no matter what," right? Um, and if he wouldn't have done that for me in that time, I probably wouldn't have, because I wanted people to want me, right? And nobody wanted me around. Shit. Um, Early on in sobriety, I had a sponsor say to me one time, he's like, "You know why nobody wants you around? It's because you got nothing nobody wants." That's an eye opener. Jesus. Please tell me more. Because that's exactly what I want you to say. I feel so good about that myself. And so he's like, "But we can change that about you. All you have to do is take some steps. You just have to change everything about you." All the places. And I'm like, "Wow, change everything." Well, I got much. Nope. Um, and the thing is when I got a sponsor the next day, because I stuck around after that, and that was my last drink, was December 11th. So I got sober the 12th. Oh man, this next part, I tell you what, God has funny ways of showing you what you need. I hooked up with a guy who was a Nazi in AA. And he probably felt that I needed that to stay sober. Was a big book thumper. Someone that didn't take a lot of crap, didn't baby the alcoholic, because I think if we baby the alcoholic, they go out and die. Um, and that's what I needed at that time, because when I rolled into AA and this guy's like, "Dude, you all right?" "Yeah, I think so." "Good. Let's go to some meetings. Let's talk about the steps. Let's talk about God." I like that one. Um, he's like, "Do you believe?" I'm like, "I think so." He's like, "Good. At least that's a belief." Sweet. 30 days later, he fired me. Once again, that language I like to call when I was doing sobriety, victimese. Yeah, that was me. I was like, "Oh, this guy fired me. Why did he fire me?" He's like, "You didn't wear a tie to the meeting. It was a dress up meeting, right?" This is a great story, and I love telling the story because it shows me when I look back at my sobriety what God is doing for me, what I couldn't do for myself. 10 year later, 10 years, I'm sitting next to him getting my 10-year chip. Um, and I leaned over to him and I said, "Hey, Mark, see, I didn't need to wear a tie to stay sober." Oh, that was awesome. That's not the best part yet. He's like, he just starts laughing at me, you know? Um, and he leans back over and he says, "Had nothing to do with the tie. It had everything to do with following direction." Moment of clarity. It's funny how things get light shined on throughout the years of my sobriety, and how grateful I am that those people that were here before me learned, went through the steps, went through that stuff for me to understand. Because if we don't, how do we know what we don't know unless somebody's been through it and can show us? He was that guy, but it was only 30 days. But still, 10 years later, he opened my eyes to a whole new meaning of what it means to follow direction of a sponsor, because it's important that we follow and try to give back to the people that are coming in to help out. And there's a lot of stuff that he did in AA that I don't agree with, but that one story was a perfect 10-year moment of my life, and I'll never forget that story because he helped me out immensely. Um, since then, I've had a handful of sponsors. There's some people that I've outgrown in AA because they're not willing to do the work, which I've had that experience. I have had some awesome sponsors. My sponsor today is in Omaha, Nebraska, and he sponsors about 12 people. And all the guys in the pigeons, is that what they call them here? Is that Pigeon Brothers? Is that what they do here? No, what do they call them here? Just, oh, really? Oh. Hmm. The reason why they use pigeon is because we're carrying a message. So I think that's what they used to use for message carrying is pigeons, I guess. I don't know, whatever. I'll call myself a white pigeon. Um, shit, that's a shocker. So, anyways, go back to reading here real quick. That's some of these we bought. We thought we could find an easier, softer way. Man, I tell you what, when I started working on the steps, I didn't want anything to do with these things because that means I have to take a look at myself. Step one, you guys already heard my story. Basically, that was it. A lot of destruction, a lot of destroyed up until the age of 13 when I took the drink, up until the age of 27 when I decided that, or actually, I didn't decide. God had everything to do with me getting sober. If I have anything to do with me getting sober, I'd be arrogant. Of course, I have an ego though. It still shines through sometimes, and I like to take credit for my own sobriety. But uh, if I look at the second half of step one, I can really identify what's going on with me, and I can stop right at there, because if you turn back to I think it's on page 52, um, where it talks about the bedevilments. I have lived this in sobriety and outside of sobriety. Having trouble with personal relationships, we couldn't control our emotional natures. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear and we were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to people. Yeah, I could sometimes feel that way today. The first sign of untreated alcoholism in the big book is restless, irritable, and discontent. That's the first sign of untreated alcoholism, and they talk about that. And I'm like that some days today with work or, but if I were to let up on going to meetings or staying focused on 10, 11, and 12, then I will live this on a daily basis. And hey, if you want to know how I'm feeling, ask my wife. Don't ask me because I'll lie to you. I'm okay.
Yeah.
She'll tell you different because she lives with me, right? But the thing is when I look at step one and I try to decide where I'm at, it's easy to inventory that. It's written right here in black and white. I can put myself right there. Okay, so what do I do with that? I move on to steps 2 and 3. Okay, when I got into AA, they said don't make any major decisions. Have you seen step 3? Yeah, I got to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him. What? What does that even mean? And how do you even do that? Well, it was explained to me that if I turn my thoughts and my actions over to a higher power, okay, I can understand that because I know what I'm thinking and I know how I'm acting. And if I want to know what my spiritual life is like today, take a look at my actions. You know, and it's occurred to me that those are the things that I like to look at when I'm doing some sort of 10 step. I look at my actions. I don't look at what I'm saying. I look at what I'm doing in AA, what I'm doing outside of AA, what I'm doing in the workplace, what I'm doing, because people will always draw something out of me. It's crazy, dude. Crazy. How people either at work or in AA, they always just pull something right out of me. And I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from? Right. Um, or my daughter, or, it just something within me that I haven't dealt with just comes right out. And I'm like, and I'll say something like, oh, shit. Wish I wouldn't have said that. Um, but that's happened many times. But the thing is that's what steps 8 and 9 are for, is I can go back and clean that up. Hopefully they don't leave in the process. If they do, they had every right to. There's that part in the book where it talks about selfishness and self-centeredness, the root of our troubles. That's a hard one to live with. It's a hard one to change for me as an alcoholic because my mind always takes me back to what about me, right? What am I not getting? How come they're looking at me like that? Why are they talking to me this way? It's always about me. And farther on in that page, it says, neither can we reduce our self-centeredness by wishing or trying our own power. We had to have God's help. This is the how and the why of it. I had to quit playing God. Oh, man. That's hard to do, is to quit playing like I have all the answers. Because like I said, when I got to AA, my first thing I got back was my opinion. And I like to tell people things that they don't like to hear sometimes. So if I continue down this road of Alcoholics Anonymous, this is what I get. Yeah, turn over to page 28. It's one of my favorite lines. Today, let's see if I can find it here. There we go. Today I have, my life is a gift from God. And what I do with my life is a gift to God. And if I stay sober, if I try to participate in AA, if I try to participate in my wife's life, if I'm supportive, if I sponsor people, if I carry a message to someone that needs it, then I think I'm doing what God wants me to do. I don't know. I just show up and suit up and try to do this thing on a daily basis. Sometimes I suck at it. But I wanted to read one of my favorite lines in the book, and yeah, 10 minutes left. Is that right? 10 minutes? According to that clock, I do. It says, we, in our turn, sought the same escape with all the desperation of a drowning man. I know what that looks like. I've been drowning before. I almost hit a bottom, or I almost relapsed in sobriety at about 10 years. I was making a lot of bad decisions in AA, and I was putting myself at harm, but I decided to go forward with it. And then I had a couple guys that I was been in AA for with a long time, and they came to me one day and they said, "Brian, you're toxic and you're gonna die if you don't stop doing this. Let's talk about it and see if we can't make something different." See, when does live and let live become apathy? Like, when do we stop caring for the other alcoholic, right? And that's what they did for me. Is they came to me, they carried a message. They said, "Look, this is what's happening. This is what we see. We want you to change. Please don't do this." But I did anyways. Somehow I managed to stay sober through it, but I was not well. Can you say it was sobriety, or was I dry? I was going to meetings. Anyways, I'll talk to my sponsor about that. Let's not try to answer that today. What seemed at first a flimsy reed, I can get behind that because I know when I was coming in and I was out there drinking, all I wanted to do was feel better about myself. All I wanted to do was to be comfortable in my own skin. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to just be okay, just to be who Brian, you know? Um, and it just seemed like I was grasping onto things that weren't sturdy, but I was doing it myself. I was trying to figure this out by myself. So has proven to be a loving and powerful hand of God. A new life had been given us, or if you prefer, a design for living that really works. That is one of my favorite lines in the book because that describes the fact that I was drowning in my own delusion, my own alcoholism, my own whatever I created, misery. And what I felt was not stable, safe, and secure was actually a hand of God. That's me getting sober. Um, and I cannot take any credit for any of it, but I also can't pay back. I'll never be able to pay AA back for that. So my living amends today would be to stay active in Alcoholics Anonymous, to sponsor people. I have one, well, actually, I have three people that asked me to sponsor them, and one stuck around, the other two haven't. And I still see them. Well, I see one of them in AA, and it's sad to say that I don't like it. You know, I don't like the fact that they can't seem to, but they'll get here when they're ready, right? I was hoping to see them here today. I thought I had something else here. Well, anyways, but if I am to stay here, I have to be a participant, to be part of the we, to be free, right? I have to be in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have to be in the middle of recovery. I have to be in the middle of unity. I have to be in the middle of service. If I am not doing one of those, then I am missing out on a third of that. And in those moments that I'm not, come that part of the book that talks about if I fail to enlarge my spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice, I cannot survive the low spots. Been there. I know what that looks like. And if anyone is struggling in AA, I understand. I get it. I've been there. I can honestly say today that struggling is part of the recovery process. I have to go through it. I have to. I don't want to, but I have to. In order for me to get on the other side of that with God and AA, if I stick with those and I'm in service, then I stand a chance without taking a drink. Because this mind of an alcoholic will go back out and I still drive truck today. Trust me, it's the one job that I've ever had that I always am alone. And I'm always thinking about myself. So, and I'm not going to say if I can do it, you can do it. That's bullshit. But if you're one of us, then I know that there's a solution in the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I know that AA has the power to change people because we're all sitting here. It's evidence that this thing works no matter what. thank you for my sobriety. Thank you for letting me share. I'm getting out of here a little early. Sorry, you have to, not listen anymore. But thank you.